Hello, everyone. This is Coach Powell. Welcome to Coffee, Tea, You and Me. Today is going to be a fantastic session. As always, I want to start the top of the lesson off with a little bit of homework. The first thing I want you to do as you're logging in is definitely over in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, go ahead and put some information in the chat about yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're coming from. If there's anything that you'd like us to know about you, the name of your company or any information about how we might get in contact with you, feel free to put anything you like in the chat. Don't think that this is too much of a marketing moment or anything like that. We want you to engage and we want you to participate. And we definitely, if you have a business, a small business, we want to shout you out and make sure people understand your level of expertise and what you're good at and what they can expect of you. So put anything you want in the chat so people can follow up with you and connect with you, and hopefully we'll have a wonderful session. Also, it's pretty interesting that this week I had a great talk with my good friend Sean Stokes, and Sean has an organization she leads called Women of the Arts, and it was my first time actually doing a webinar or sort of a basic web interview on the platform that a lot of you might be recognized, called Instagram. I'd never done anything on Instagram before, and so it's interesting that I found an opportunity to do that with Sean, and we had such a great time. If I can, I'll make sure I post that Instagram session in the chat. If some of you all can find that and do that for me, that'd be even greater. That way I don't have to think about it myself, but I will do so. Today's topic is really going to be the beginning of an entire series on personal presentation. This is incredibly important because when you can present yourself well, a tremendous amount of benefits come your way. I never realized until I did the research and did the studying, and then I started to actually practice and help others practice and implement what I call the 5 elements of perfect presentation. And I promise you, as I delved into those elements and really uncovered so many resources and tools and created so many strategies for people who want to elevate their presentations, I found that there's so many benefits to it and so many things that we're going to try to discuss today. And today's really discussion is going to be, we're not going to get into all 5 of the elements, but we are going to talk about some of the no-nos and some of the things that people do in presentations that don't work out. We're going to talk about some of the rules and some of the tactics that you can always use to make sure your personal presentations, no matter what it is that you're doing, whether you have 60 seconds or 5 minutes or 20 minutes or even an hour to present, how can you do it in a way that's going to be most effective? And there's a lot of reasons for this. It's a lot of reasons for us wanting to be more effective, and there are a lot of opportunities for us to do so when we present ourselves, and it's critical to our success. It's critical to our lives. It's critical to our survival to be able to present ourselves and our ideas in a meaningful, powerful way to others. We're going to talk about a lot of techniques and a lot of tricks and a lot of strategies over the next 5 weeks or so. Well, there's 5 principles. It's probably going to take me 6 weeks to finish them all, maybe 7. But we'll go along as we go along. And if there's something missing, then I want you to definitely ask any questions you have to ask. Feel free to jump in whenever you jump in. You don't have to jump in at the beginning. If you are just coming back to this, you can always take a look at the information as we present it. Going forward, I'm in the process of creating a whole lot of new training manuals and documents and all kinds of stuff that I want to share with you guys. And in fact, I'm going to post the most current version of the training program, the 5 elements of perfect presentation, in the chat today. And I think you'll like it. It's really from a larger training manual that I created called the 5 elements of super engaging presentations. And they're really the same. You want to make sure that your presentations have the kind of quality where people feel connected and they feel like it's something special for them in your presentations. So it doesn't matter if you're giving a speech, or you're making a post online, or you are somehow giving even a PowerPoint deck or whatever you're trying to do. It's important that you understand some basic elements of all presentations that have always been with us before you began to innovate and create and try to come up with different ways to present yourself. Now, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back. I want to talk first about the no-nos, the things that really, really mess people up when it comes to presentation and that you really literally have to avoid. And these are typical traps that I see people fall into all the time. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back after this messages. Okay, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to Coffee Tea, You and Me. This is one of the many installments that we've done. If you want to look up some of the older segments that we've done, you can check us out on Facebook Live, or you can check us out on Facebook or YouTube. My Facebook channel and my YouTube channel are posted everywhere, so it should be that difficult to find me. If you do have difficulty finding either the Facebook or YouTube channel, definitely let me know in today's chat. If you want to invite somebody to come along with you, if you want to share this with anybody that you like, I highly encourage it. I'm looking forward to it. And if somebody hasn't already, if you need to put your name and your information in the chat next to us, please do so. And the next, you might see it. Depending on where it is on your computer, you might see it somewhere in your computer, and I'll make sure that I spend some time giving you a shout out, tell people what you do, and if I know you, obviously I'll give you a higher upgrade. Oh, by the way, this is another thing. If you haven't already joined me on LinkedIn or Facebook, do that, because I use LinkedIn all the time to connect people all over my networks and everywhere I am, and it's very, very important. I connected with some really powerful people this week, and I love to share them with any of you who are interested. So definitely take a look at my LinkedIn portfolio, take a read, take a look at stuff, take a look at anything you want there, and especially the connections. If there's somebody there that you think that you want to get to know, you want me to introduce you to, do me a favor and check that out and let me know, because you can literally sort people on LinkedIn. If you looked on my profile and you looked at my connections, you hit that button, all of a sudden you get all the people that I am connected to, and you'll see the various connections that I have, and you'll be able to sort them based on their title, their position, where they are in the country, what company size, all kinds of different metrics you can use to sort that. And if you want me to connect you with somebody, just make sure you tell me who it is, why you want to connect with them, and the best way for me to help you make those connections. I found that that's one of the most valuable things I could do for people in my network and people that I connect to. So if you're connected with me on LinkedIn, go ahead and do so. Find somebody that I can introduce you to. If not, it's okay. Definitely connect with me. Okay, so today's topic is the beginning of a series, like I said earlier, and it's very, very important that we all understand how to present ourselves well. Because when you don't present yourself well, verbally, non-verbally, and all the different communication cues that you possibly can use, then you wasted your message. You wasted your effort in communicating with people. And there are a couple of no-nos that people have, and I'm going to mention some of those no-nos right off the bat that you should never do when you're presenting yourself. Number one, big no-no. Death by PowerPoint is out. Now, I'm not suggesting that you can't use PowerPoint presentations, but you cannot read directly from your PowerPoint presentations and just have text there with no images or anything that backs up the dialogue that you're trying to share with it. Because you want your images to be there. You want them to have impact. You want them to be meaningful. You want them to draw people in, because understand, most of us are visual learners, which means we need to be connected visually to what we are seeing. We need to hear what we need to hear, and we need to touch as much as we can tactically, whatever it is, the information. So give us practice opportunities, give us opportunities to engage, give us opportunities to think, give us opportunities to really see what the information is and make it our own. The more you can do that with your presentation, the better. So make sure that's definitely don't go, let me just write some stuff down on the PowerPoint deck and then read the PowerPoint deck. Bad idea. Don't do that. Another problem I think I've seen with people with presentations all the time is they try to promote themselves right up front in their presentation, which means they're trying to share their credibility, their resources, who they are, what they're all about, before they even open up their mouths about the content that people came to hear about. Now, when you do that in the wrong order, what happens is when people decide they think they know what you're all about, because you've already told them pretty much, this is what I have to offer, this is what I'm going to share, this is who I am, this is how long I've been doing this, is my name of my company is very, very important, how we founded the company, how I got in the industry, all those things that are great to know, to get to know someone. But I want you to think about it. It's a big waste when, one, I've already read your bio before you start talking, right? Or two, you have just been presented by somebody else who gave us all the important and valuable data about you to share with us before you entered the stage, before you came on the scene. Or like right now, my name is flashed across the screen. Why would I need to tell you my name? Or the name of my company? It's not even relevant right now. So until I've done something, or you've said something, or something has happened to make you relevant, to make you special, to make you stand out, to draw people in, to make them want to know who are you, you probably should say that. In fact, I have a method that I want you to think through and begin to understand. And I'm going to share this with you probably again and again and again. But if you start your message with the benefits that you're going to deliver, then what's going to happen is people are going to pay attention. Then you hit them with a story. The story is going to help them sink their attention even more and begin to get connected with what you're talking about at an even higher level, and make them feel like they're part of whatever it is you're sharing and engage with you. And then you hit them with the facts, who you are, what you're doing, how long you've been doing it, how special you are, who helped you with this. All that kind of stuff is very, very important. And if you think about the best movies you've seen, you might get a hint up front who the starring actors are and what the studios were that produced them. But really, all the credits is done in the end. Who did the music, who did the lighting, who did the choreography, how long they were, everything, all the stuff, all the licensing stuff, everything that was important to know, vitally important to know, in order to make sure everybody else got adequately promoted and nobody felt like anybody was stealing anything or misrepresenting anything, is all right there in the ending credits. So think about that. What are the benefits up front? Benefits compel, stories sell, facts tell. You're not going to be able to present anyone by telling them the facts up front, the information, the data up front. They're going to be bored right off the bat, and they're not going to remember all the data and all the acronyms and everything that you try to use, and all the names and titles and all that kind of stuff, and they're not even relevant yet because no one has anything meaningful to attach to it. So never start your presentation off with the facts of who you are, how long you've been in business, what your name is, blah, blah, blah. It's irrelevant. Nobody cares. Either they've done that work already to figure that basic data out, or someone's just presented you, like I said earlier, or it doesn't even matter to them yet until they've heard you say something compelling and useful and meaningful. Now they want to know who you are. How did they get in contact with you? What should they use when they talk to you? What's your surname and all that kind of stuff? All that stuff is important at the end. So try to save that at the end. Plus, you don't want to brag. You don't want to come off as holier than thou or know-it-all right up front. Even if you do, and even if you are holier than thou, even if you are a know-it-all, you don't want to do that. The next no-no I think people make all the time, and I see it happens in presentations all the time, is death by PowerPoint. It's they present their facts and information about themselves and everything, like that's everything right up front. I'm already asleep, at that point. That's a problem. The other no-no is people overwhelm you with acronyms or industry jargon. You never want to do that. When you do that, when you use only industry jargon or high-level language or acronyms or any kind of thing that would be representative of your level of expertise to just the masses, it's not going to fly well, because they're not going to stop you and go, time out, I didn't understand what you just said. It's not going to happen. You're going to talk over their heads, and they may think, wow, you must be really smart. But now I have to go back to the dictionary just to figure out what you just said to me. Or I have to go look it up or Google something or whatever that is just to figure out what you just said to me. In the meantime, I'm missing what you're saying next because I'm stuck on whatever word choice you choose or whatever acronyms you chose or whatever things in your professional development you chose. And it's very, very important that you don't blow people away with your industry jargon, or you don't use language that only people in your world understand. The next thing that's a very big no-no, I see it happen all the time, and people do it all the time, is they use gimmicks and tricks in their presentation. There's no need for bells and whistles. There's no need for, clown suits and, different kinds of gimmicks and all that kind of stuff when you're doing a presentation, because it makes you look gimmicky. It makes you look a little bit like a clown. And if you want to maintain a level of credibility and trust and respect, then you don't want to do anything, say anything, dress in any way, create anything that is going to be off-putting or in some way too flashy. Now, I get that there is a point of significance and relevance that you're trying to get to, and something that's going to make you stand out is important. However, influence is truly a balancing act between fitting in and standing out, right? And you want to be able to know where that line is, because if you're at that line where you're crossing over and you're always standing out, you're not necessarily standing out in a good way to most people. And so you have to think about that as you're sharing your messages, you're sharing what you're doing. Do you fit? Do you fit what people's expectations are for dress? Do you fit what their expectations are for a level of distinction or polish or whatever that is? Are you impressive but not scary? Right? Think about that. You don't want to blow people away. You don't want to overwhelm people with your talent and your imagery and the things that you bring to the table. You don't want to be gimmicky. You don't want to be, a person who, is always known. You don't want to be the dancing bear. Put it that way. That's the thing. You don't want to be the circus clown. You don't want to be the dancing bear. You don't want to be the butt of a joke or even considered a joke. Because if what you're talking about is supposed to be funny or supposed to be hilarious or supposed to be not serious, that's fine. But if you want people to use your messages, you want to influence them, then you got to take away anything that might offend or might be off-putting to them. It's a no-no. Now, I know sometimes people are like, well, I'm trying to just add a little pizzazz to my presentation. Nothing wrong with a little flair. But too much will make you look clownish, and it's also very important. I guess the best example I could give is people who maybe overdo makeup in a presentation, and it's really supposed to highlight your features. It's supposed to accent the things that are positive and diminish the things in your facial expression in your world that are not so positive, right? That's the purpose of makeup. Essentially, it's not to put on a clown face. It's not to overdo it. Same thing for dress. If you find yourself overdressed for the moment, then people are going to wonder, why are you wearing, like if I were wearing right now, if I were wearing something like a formal outfit, like a bow tie and a formal shirt, and I was going over to a formal dinner and a jacket and maybe a smoking jacket or something like that, I may look good, I may feel good in it, but is that necessary for this type of presentation at this moment? You may wonder, where is he going? What's he doing? Is he going out after this? Did he get dressed to go out? And if I didn't explain that, then it would just be hanging out there. And you might not pay attention to something critical that I had to say because of how I'm presenting myself. So think about all those things. Think about how your audience might perceive you and your language and your style and your particular charisma or characteristics while you're thinking about your presentation. Because if you don't, you're going to make one of those mistakes. You're going to overdo it or underdo it or worse. Another no-no, look people in the eye. If you don't, if you're looking all over the place, if you're over here, you're trying to present somebody, or your face is somewhere else, or whatever, you're not really paying attention to them. And so what you're doing is you're giving people permission to not pay attention to you, because you're not really paying attention to them, or they can't perceive that you're paying attention to them. So understand that there's a mirroring effect that happens in all presentations. If your face can be seen and your voice can be heard or whatever, people start to match the pace of your tone in terms of their own internal psychology, right? So you want to make sure that you sync up with people well, and you can't do that by hiding. You can't do that by using the wrong gestures. You can't do that by doing anything that would make the person believe that, one, you don't know what you're talking about, two, you're not comfortable, so they're not going to be comfortable. Anything that just makes that go in the wrong direction is going to be a no-no that you don't want to do in any presentation. So those are the 5 big no-nos that I think people do all the time in presentations. Of course, there's the old traditional ums and ahs and ohs, and you don't want to stay away from the pregnant pauses, right? You want to speak at a tone where people can understand where you're coming from. Use pauses well, but don't go a lot. It's quite natural that some type, as you're learning to present yourself better, some type of filler is going to be used in your presentation. But as you begin to get better at creating presentations, at presenting your ideas and your thoughts, you realize that you can take your time. You can be articulate. You can be audible. People can hear you. You can use all of everything you have in order to make that presentation come alive, in order to make it robust. So I want to take a minute now to ask you guys in the studio audience, if you were to actually learn and begin to practice being a powerful presenter every time you open your mouth, whether you had 5 minutes, 60 seconds, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, if you could learn a technique that would always be there for you, so that you will always deliver a powerful presentation every time, how would that make you feel? What would you be able to do? I tell you now, I'm not a person who enjoys being out front. I'm not a person who enjoys being the leader. I'm not a person who's necessarily wanting to be the mouthpiece for everything all the time. I'm not. And sometimes it's kind of off-putting when I'm put in a place where, especially spontaneity, when people just say, okay, Marvin, I want you to speak, I want you to say a few words, I want you to do something. And I have to do that extemporaneously, right? Very, very difficult for me to do and be comfortable until I remember the 5 elements that we're going to share with you over the next few weeks. So I want to take a bit of a deep dive into those. And I want you to, we'll start with just opening up the document that I have for you guys. And if for some reason you can't open the document up, let me know. And I will see what I can do to fix that problem. But when you look at the 5 elements of super engaging presentations right there on page 1, there's a young lady. I like this illustration. There's a young lady who she's sitting on the couch talking to another person. I think it's a guy. Yeah. She's talking to a guy from the couch. And, they're not really sitting close to each other, so they're probably not intimate friends. But what can you tell about her body language, her facial expressions? What can you tell about her character from just what you see there? Is she uncomfortable? Is she nervous? Is she somehow doesn't seem to be enjoying herself? What can you tell? She's obviously engaged, right? She's looking directly at him. She's got a big, bright, shiny smile on her face, right? She's using the Duquesne smile technique. And the Duquesne smile is basically when you're smiling with your eyes as well as your mouth, right? When you can do that, Duquesne smile really well, man, you light up the room when you're in the room, and people want to know about you. They want to know who you are. They just naturally feel comfortable around you because you look safe and you look inviting. All those things happen, and we're going to get a little bit more into that, next week. But think about that. Look at her posture. Is she open or closed? How is she using her hand gestures? Does it mean that does she look like she's bored or unexcited? Of course not. She looks open to conversation. She looks like she's enjoying herself. She looks like, I don't know what that left hand is doing while she's pulling her hair back, but that she's sort of partially open and partially closed. But she's smiling, which means she's having a good time. She's interested, right? She's got her legs crossed and she's definitely comfortable, right? These are very important things to think about. How do you look when you're presenting? How do you look to other people, and what's going on? As you move on to page 2 here, at the bottom of page 2, I have a brief illustration that indicates all 5 of the 5 elements. There's impact, there's drama, there's heroism, there's vision, and there's recognition, right? Those are all the 5 elements of perfect presentation. At every single element, I've got at least one quote that will help you begin to understand. This is one by Jackie Robinson. A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. I love that quote. This next one is a story. All right, this next illustration is a bit of a story, and it's a story of a gentleman by the name of Warren. And it talks about what Warren had to experience in his life and how he was able to overcome some of the drama that he had to face. Being able to tell a story is an important element, an important part of any presentation that you're going to give. Stories are magical for a lot of ways, and we'll get into that as well, why our story is so important. Also, we're going to get into this idea of all the 5 elements, of course, but we're also going to get into the idea of the 4 Ps. The 4 Ps are a concept that, I heard about when I was a young team member for BNI. And it stands for profile, problem, product, and prospect. These are the elements that you may want to consider thinking about and talking about when you understand and use these presentation tactics that I'm going to share with you. On page 10, we have an action guide. These are simple rules. Some of them I already gave you, right? I already gave you some of the no-nos, the things that you should do, things that you're going to go through, and things that you should play on. I'm going to maybe highlight some of those even this morning, this afternoon, I'm sorry. And then last on page 11, I love this part. This is actually an outline you can use. And as we go through each one of these, you'll begin to see how you can do it. But I've also given you a sample of some information that you might want to fill in for yourself when you're going through the 5 elements. Now, let me tell you some things about these 5 elements. And there's a workbook that helps you with some questions. And of course, all the resources, oh my God, that we put together that are there. Some of these links might not work anymore because I did this, years ago. I might have to refresh and update this, and I'm definitely going to do that by the end of these next 7 weeks. But for now, if you guys kind of go through and check them and see what's going on, and maybe that information might be there for you, maybe it might not. But that's already here, and I've given this training now so many times in so many different places from so many different people. I've gotten such great feedback on it. I know it's magical. I know it works 100% of the time. But I want to tell you something about these 5 elements. These are not 5 elements that you can take and put them in a presentation sort of willy-nilly. And you can't just change the order in which they're presented and which they're used. Because if you do that, you're going to cause a breakdown in the system. The way our brains work, the way our minds work, and this is all human beings, tend to be in the same format, how we experience and how we participate and how we do things. And we're going to talk a lot about, what we've gotten out of the world of drama, right? How do you tell a great story? What is the story arc? What does that look like? We're going to talk about all that kind of stuff. But if you think about this, the way this is presented in this linear fashion, impact, drama, heroism, vision, and recognition. If you get these out of order, you're going to cause what happens in normal people call cognitive dissonance, means they're not going to be able to emotionally and mentally connect in a way that they should, to engage in the way that they could, to follow up in the way that you need them to follow up. And so if you don't want to have a meaningful, impactful presentation, take these things and put them out of order. And you will find that your presentation becomes less and less effective as you move forward. You don't want that. You want to keep that presentation tight. You want to keep it crisp, and you want to keep it in this order. It doesn't matter who you're talking to. If you're talking to people that you want to buy your product, you need a 5-element presentation for them. If you're talking to people who you want to refer you, you need a separate 5-element presentation for them. If you're talking to people that are going to be a part of your advisory council or your support staff or team, you want a separate 5-element presentation for them. If you're talking for people who are going to be suppliers for you, you want a separate 5-element presentation process for them. And there's many different segments of people that you have to work for and work with in your business, in your practice, in your life. You need a separate 5-element presentation. I could give you a 5-element presentation for being a father, a 5-element presentation for being a husband, a 5-element presentation for being an entrepreneur, and there's several hats that I wear as an entrepreneur. I can give you a 5-element presentation for being a community leader, a 5-element presentation for doing anything and being anything in any role in any aspect of my life. Because I know that the better I get at it, the more I practice it in different environments and different places, the more I will be able to create the benefits that I'm looking for. So let's talk about those benefits. It just so happens that people who literally understand and began to really get the benefits of doing a 5-element presentation, it works just like this. When you can create impact in your presentation right up front, people begin to wake up. Meaning you get their attention, meaning you stop them from thinking about other things and really focus on what you're saying, what you're talking about, why you're talking about it, and they begin to understand and embrace it and engage with it. You want people's attention, right? You want them to pay attention to you. And while they're doing that, they're not paying attention to anything else. You want their single, solitary focus and attention to be on what you are doing and what you are saying. And everything that you do in the 5-element presentations will help you accomplish that, including right up front, creating meaningful impact, right? You want people to feel connected. You want them to feel engaged. You want their reticular activator to jump off and for them to really just move all of their focus right on you. Now, when you get into the drama phase of the 5-element presentation, what happens with drama always is it creates excitement and anticipation. It brings up an empathy that people can connect to whatever character you're using in a story format. And they're starting to feel for the character. They're starting to understand the trauma that the character is experiencing or has experienced, right? They're looking for a resolution to the pain. They're looking for an opportunity to escape from the drama. And you're pulling your audience into that. So if you're not good at relaying the pain, relaying the anguish, relaying the problem that the person that you're talking about in your story has, you're not going to go do a good job with the drama. And the drama is meant to cause empathy. You want people to feel for the main character that you're talking about. You want them to associate with them and connect to them and feel their pain. If you haven't done that through the visualization, through the word choice and the language that you use, you have failed miserably to give a 5-element presentation, a good, perfect presentation. Number 3, when you bring in the heroism aspect of your presentation, what happens when that happens is you help people and you inspire bravery and courage. You inspire acts of kindness, and you inspire things that people wouldn't traditionally do, but in a positive direction, to even take a social risk that they may not have taken before, or to do something in a way they may not have done it before. Because again, you're using influence, you're using leverage in order to create an atmosphere where it's okay to, in fact, it's expected and rewarded to participate in high level functioning in our society and really doing great things and be a part of great things happening. You want to do that. You want to inspire that heroic behavior, those heroic thoughts, because it does something for people when they feel connected to that. They feel connected to the trauma, but then they also get relieved when the hero shows up. Very important aspect of the hero. Again, we're going to go into this probably in week 3. The person that's the hero in your story can never be you. And I'll tell you about that why later on. But it really can't and shouldn't be you. You don't want to get caught trying to toot your own horn in your own presentation, because it makes you look stupid. It makes you look ridiculous. It makes you look self-centered and self-serving. Vision. Vision is the 4th aspect of the 5 elements of presentation. And what it does when you hit it right, when you do it right, is you create in people a sense of destiny and a sense of fulfillment. There's something to that old Bible quote, without a vision, people perish, right? You have to think about that. When you are presenting something and people can see where your character is going, what the possibilities are for you or for anybody else who are engaged in a meaningful, powerful way with you. When they can see that future, then they know how to participate. They start getting ideas of their own, how they can jump in and be a part of the story, how they can be a part of success, how they can jump on the winning team, how they get, engage and be engaged with the information. And last but not least is recognition. This is when your credibility matters. This is where you need to show up with your name, your address, your phone number, whatever it is you want, the contact information, the gimmick, or the hook that you want to have, where people are invited to participate in something you got going on in the future. Your credibility, how many years you've been in the business, maybe references that or referrals that you've had in the past, or people that you work with in the past. Whatever it is that creates your credibility, it's a great time to put it in the end, because that is when we care. If you put that credibility up there in front, the argument is, if you put your credibility up front, then people know that you're an expert and will listen to you because you're an expert. That's not true. Because if they don't care about your expertise yet, it doesn't matter. If you're doing a talk and you're saying, I'm a neuroscientist and I've been a neuroscientist for 20, but you're doing a talk about something less than other than has anything to do with neuroscience, you just turned off a lot of people. Because people are like, oh, he's going to talk about neuroscience. And then you're not talking about neuroscience, you're talking about something else. So your credibility, one, must relate to the topic of your conversation and what you're talking about. But it needs to happen in the end when it matters, when people want to know, well, who was that masked man? Who is the person that just delivered this amazing presentation that I'll never forget? I need to make sure I get their name. You want them to ask you who you are. You don't want to tell them who you are. They're going to forget it anyway if you tell them up front, because it's not going to matter. So I'm going to spend the rest of our time kind of going through some of the great quotes that I found and some of the interesting information that I found about perfect presentations. I'm not going to get into, because I'm going to save all the meat for future presentations, but I want to make sure that you guys get that, this tool is an amazing tool for you to use and for you to embrace. And I'm hoping that you will when you create your presentations. Everything that you do, everything that we accomplish can be done very well. And I'm going to spend a moment when, while we're doing that, while you're thinking about, how a perfect presentation, how learning how to present yourself perfectly, right, is going to be good for you. And I really want to hear from you about that. How is it going to help you be better if you're better at this? Now, I know some of you are already great. I'm not suggesting that you're not. But if you were better, what would that mean to you? What would you be able to do? What would you be able to do differently? And while you're throwing that information in the chat, I'm going to introduce some of my friends here. Let me see who's here. Today. Look at that. We got a full house today. Look at Nancy's out here. Nancy Ayana Wyatt is a great presentation coach. In fact, she's one of the best in the industry. She will help you polish your presentations, polish your visual imagery, make sure that you're saying and doing things the right way when it comes to language and diction. She's a very good copyright editor. She's really, really cool when it comes to helping anybody really understand how to take it to the next level. In fact, Nancy, I think I'm going to make a big play for the biotechnology industries in the state of Virginia. Just to let you know, I'm going to start to try to do some executive coaching and working with some of the state's lead resources in terms of researchers who want to really elevate their presentation to the next level. And I may have to bring you in on a couple of deals that I'm going to create in the future here, because I know that that's a growing industry that's going to continue to grow well after COVID-19 and post-COVID. It's going to really blow up, and I'm making some serious connections and inroads into that space right now. So if you want to roll with me on any of that, definitely hit me up with an instant message or talk to me about that. We'll get a conversation going, and I'll let you know what I'm up to and where I'm going with that. But Nancy's great with presentations and helping people do that. Suresh is an amazing tailor. You haven't had a suit unless you've had Suresh suit you up. I mean, if you want to make sure that you look good and that you are as professional as you possibly can, you can present that professional image whenever you need to, and it really matters when it matters. And I can tell you when it matters. It matters when you want people to buy into your influence, when you want people to surround you with the kind of respect and admiration that only goes to the top people in the industries. You're going to want to look the part. Now, you also have to walk the part and talk the part, right? You can't just look the part. You can't just be pretty, but you have to bring some substance to the table. But Suresh can help you be pretty, which is important, right? You gotta look the part. Sometimes when you look the part, that helps you feel like you have the part, and that will help you the confidence that you need to have in order to exude that confidence and move forward. I've had 2 suits, I think, for Suresh, and a jacket. Those things are timeless. They never fall apart. I can't even bust them up, and I'm hard on clothes. And so it's also an amazing thing to get Suresh to work with you. Let's think about who else is in the audience here. We've got David Huff. David is the guy who I showed you the presentation earlier that he did for me. I'm going to show you one more now because he's in the room. I love this. I want to see which ones you like. Do you like that coffee one? I like the machine one personally, but that's why I use it all the time. But you might like the latte art one, right? So that's pretty cool too. Either way, let me know if you like one or the other. I'd love to take a quick poll about which ones you really like. Okay, and I got people contacting me now from the biotechnology world, which is pretty good, Nancy. Pretty good. Some things are working. Okay. Let me see what else. Who else we got in the audience? We got Nancy, David, Scott, Suresh. I think I covered everybody. Oh, Scott. Scott tries to stay quiet, so he often has to make me reach to find him. But he's one of the most talented professionals out there when it comes to understanding construction costs and how to put together the construction costs that are needed for building projects. And this is significantly important because he's one of the pioneers of what we call BIM software. I hate to use that acronym because I don't even know what it stands for. Scott, if you could tell me what BIM stands for, put that in the chat. That way, I can take my own advice, right, and not give people information that is over their head. It's also over my head, so it's not like I'm trying to brag about something I don't know. But Scott, if you could put the acronym for BIM in the chat, that'd be great. But he's one of the best in the business, and he's open for personal consultation. Anybody wants to have any ideas about what the cost might be to their building or to a bridge or whatever you're building, he's the guy. He's the guy who can help you figure that out and make sure that you're not overdoing it. He wrote it in the chat. That's cool. Building information modeling. Well. I studied architecture for a long time in school, and Scott studied engineering. He actually finished it, and so he got the right side of the business. I got stuck with design, which was not that interesting for me after a while. You need Scott to build anything. He's a structural engineer. He can help you figure it out. Is it going to actually stand now that you got this wonderful drawing? Okay. Let me see. I got everybody out here. Okay, let's answer some of the questions. Um, David says, do you think TED Talks are usually good examples of how to connect with an audience? Well, I've seen some horrible TED Talks and I've seen some amazing TED Talks. And like some of the TED Talks that I've got even linked in the document that I share with you guys is some of the best that's ever been out there. And I love good ones. I love the good TED Talks. But if you have never been on a panel or on a committee that's put together a TED Talk, let me tell you how they work. TED licenses a group of people in an area to do a TED Talk presentation, right? The TED Talk presentations are several series of speakers may come to speak at one event. They always pick a theme for the event, and they always have what they consider quality presenters that show up for the event. Now, some presenters take advantage of the coaching that's offered them, and some think they got it all worked out and they don't do it. Those that take advantage of the coaching are pretty much going to be better than those who do not. And if there's no coaching offered, that TED Talk conference is going to be hit or miss. You might get one or two good presenters in a 1 or 2 day presentation, but people who haven't had the training and the benefit of practice and rehearsal on a presentation, don't do as well as people who take the time to get some good coaching around how the presentation needs to go, because you really only have 18 minutes. And I've seen people go over their 18 minutes by a long shot because they really didn't know how long it was going to take them to explain every slide, and they really didn't get that good coaching about how to present really well, and they didn't get the audience engagement that they really wanted to have. Now, you got a viral video out there that sucks. What does that do for your reputation? Think about that. It doesn't do you any good to just have a presentation in the bag. It has to be one that is representative of timeless opportunities for you, that's going to be there for you, and as well as you can get better, but you need to come out the gate excellent when it comes to this, because if you don't put the time and practice in early, you're not going to develop the rigor that you need to have in order to continue to get better and better and better and better. Okay. Nancy also says that, I'm going to put this on the screen so I can read it better. She says that being better at presentations would help me be less self-conscious and more effective. That is so true. I find that with not just practice and rehearsal or presentation, but practice and rehearsal or presentation with someone else, with a listening audience that is going to be objective. It's going to tell you the truth and going to give you meaningful feedback. You can really polish your presentation. But if you listen to yourself talk, if you watch yourself in the mirror, which a lot of people are encouraged to do that, that's the minimum you can do. But really have someone else, jump on a Zoom call and have somebody else kind of run through the presentation with you, and let them take notes, and let them talk to you about your pace, let them talk to you about your facial expressions, your gestures. Let them talk to you about, ask them questions about the impact. Did they feel for the character? Were they connected to it? Did they think of anybody that they knew? If you do this right, people are going to be tremendously engaged, and they're going to feel like something special is happening, and they're part of something special. If you do this wrong, they're just going to feel like they've heard a great presentation and you gave a great presentation, and they're not going to feel that emotional connection. And you want that emotional connection, because that's what drives memory. That's what drives engagement. That's what makes people want to share you and your presentation with other people, because you touch them, right? That's critically important. She says, I also like the coffee one better than the other one, which is too loud. I get it. Yeah. And it's kind of different. You know what? Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that one, Nancy, because I have to tell people to turn their sound down if we're going to listen to the other one. Even though I like it, it's kind of clanky and it is loud. I get that. Each is well suited to different occasions. Yes, you're right. And says, yes, to work on biotech folks. Let me see if we got any other questions out here. Suresh says, well, you can alter each and every other week. Yes, you can, and you should. You should never give the same presentation. I would say ever. If you have to, just kind of rotate them out, every week, one week you give a presentation that if you're going to do like in a networking function, or you're going to do like in a group where you're going to be together often, you don't want to overdo it by trying to accomplish everything in one presentation. Now, I get this happens all the time when people are visiting, and they want to tell you everything they do, and that's fine. You can give the laundry list and tell us everything you do, but that's not going to be good for you. That's not going to be good for your listening audience. It's not going to be good for anybody, because you're not really hitting anything specific. You're talking about general ideas and general terms that might fit for everybody, and what you end up doing is what I call being a wandering generality. And you're talking around things that Zig Ziglar gave me that term, right? You're talking about things that don't matter to somebody in the room, and it doesn't matter if you hit something that does matter to them. The things that you hit that don't matter to them, you lost them right there, because now they're like, oh, you're not really a specialist in the thing that I need. You're like everywhere. You're all over the place. And that's not a good thing. So you definitely want to be specific, and you definitely want to talk directly to one idea, one action, one program, one benefit at a time. And that could give you several different presentations if you orchestrate it correctly. And we'll go more into that, in future dates. I love this. Yeah, David asked me what do I think of Simon Sinek. Sinek is all about purpose, and his thoughts of why, beginning with why. It's almost like in the Dr. Covey's years when he wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of his 7 habits is begin with the end in mind, right? So what is it you want people to do, feel, be as a result of what you say? How do you want to influence them? Begin with your why. Why are you talking to them in the first place? It's the same question. It's just flipped around differently, right? And so Senec's question is really nothing new. It's all about purpose. It's all about there's a reason for what you're doing. And if you understand your reasons, then you're typically going to do better than when you're just, I just want to do a TED Talk, or I just want to do a personal presentation. I just want to be in the same room with other people. That's not a reason to open up your mouth. You're talking to people because you want to influence them. Now, it's not because you want to manipulate them, and there's a difference. They may look the same in application quite a bit, but the difference is intention, right? So if you're starting with your why, what are you intending? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to get to? Why are you trying to do it? If you're starting with those thoughts in mind, you have a better shot of getting there than if you just start with, I'm just going to go for it. Go for what? I don't know. I'm just going for it. That's great. You're motivated. You're intrinsically motivated and all that kind of stuff. But you're motivated to do what? Why? You don't know. You can't answer those questions. You look like a fool. And you don't want to look like a fool. You want to make sure you look like somebody who is competent, knows what they're doing, knows what they're talking about, knows what direction they're going in, and they know, more importantly, what they want other people, what they're inviting other people into. What are you inviting people to do for you? And if you find yourself continually trying to sell to the same group over and over and over again, getting very little to no results, well, pretty soon that group is going to stop listening to you because you don't bring anything to the table that they can actually do. Because once they decided they don't want to buy from you, they've also decided they don't want to listen to you anymore, because that's all you're doing is selling. So you got to think about, your messages and tailor them for your audience to engage as much as possible with you with something that's going to be meaningful to both of you. Now that's a win-win process, and we're going to talk about that a little bit further down the road. I think I introduced everybody. I'm going to go through all the no-nos. Suresh, I don't understand this question, so I'm going to let you ask it again. You asked me, in my opinion, what do I like? What do you like? Do I like, in your opinion, what do you like about what? And what exactly are you talking about? I don't quite understand the question. So I'd be more than happy to ask, but I don't understand the question. So let me go through the no-nos again. I remember looking at them as I was with you guys earlier, and I want you to see them and kind of make sure I hit some of the good stuff that is here and some of the great quotes that I have as well. And I'm probably going to read that story to you. Okay, so on page 10 of the document, you have the 5 elements action guide. And now these are the rules. These are all the rules. There could be many more, but I stopped right here. I don't even know how many there are. But I want you to see these rules, and I want to talk about them with you a little bit, so that you get them and understand them. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to throw it in the chat. So number one rule we already talked about is never use jargon describing what you do. Learn to communicate to ninth graders. I love that. Keep it at a ninth grade level. I like a seventh grade level personally, but ninth grade is good. The next rule is less is more. The simpler your presentation is, the better it will be. Stay away from complicated language, complicated jargon, complicated processes and materials. I mean, just stay away from that. You want it simple, and you want it to hit hard, and you want it to be emotionally engaging, and you want it to be special. So stay away from all that blubbly, because you start to sound like a Charlie Brown character. Now all of the adults in Charlie Brown sound like this. Wah, 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 wah. Start to sound like that to people who are listening to you. So you don't want to do that. Keep it simple. Don't use complicated graphs and charts or visuals that are difficult. If you have a visual, it's got to be simple. It's got to be easy to understand, easy to read, and powerful and impacting. And it's got to relate to what you're talking about. You're just throwing up visuals just to throw up visuals, and there's no real connection, no real transition from what you're sharing in the text, and they come in an off-brand kind of way. You don't want that. That's going to be difficult for your presentation. So don't use complicated graphs or charts or visuals. Be certain to touch the emotional chord. I can't say this any more loudly or any more importantly than this. You have to make people cry if you can. Again, if your product or service isn't a solution to a problem, that's an important, vital, dramatic problem, then you don't have anything. There's no need for you. If you're just like everybody else, if you solve every problem the same way everybody else solve the same problem, then there's no need for you. There's no differentiation between you and what you do and what other people bring to the table, right? So you have to learn to demonstrate the real problem that you solve so people can feel it and understand it, empathize with it. And then so when the solution shows up, people also feel that. And that makes them happy. That whatever problem that your character had, you're able to solve that problem. You show them how that problem was going to be resolved. When you do your character development, critical. Only use demographic information. Things that we can easily see. Suresh does a good job because he describes all the time a person who might be trying to buy some very, very important clothing for a presentation off the rack. And they don't get it tailored, they don't get it cut to them, they don't get it measured by somebody who knows what they're doing. And so they just bought something off the rack because it fits their general size. And then they come home and try to put it on, and it's either too big in the wrong spaces and too tight in the wrong spaces, and it just doesn't fit them correctly. Because it doesn't fit them correctly, they're not comfortable in it. Because they're not comfortable in it, their confidence diminishes greatly. Now imagine if you're about to give a great presentation or an important presentation, and you're wearing something that you don't even like. How do you think you're going to show up? What do you think your nonverbals are going to say to the audience that's watching you as you fidget around with this, frock that doesn't work, right? It's not going to be a good thing. It's going to make you look incompetent. Even if you're not, you're going to seem to be incompetent. Even if everything goes well in your presentation, your look is going to be off. So think about those types of things, right? Make sure that you only use demographic descriptors, just like I just did just now. A person who you can see demographics, right? You can see their age. You know where they look, where they work, or where they live, or what kind of car they drive, how many kids they have, whether they're married or not married, the reason they came to town in the first place. These things you might know about people when you're talking about your customer or the person, the protagonist of your argument. You want to be able to describe those things very well. If you can't, then people are not going to connect to the person. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in later things. But if they can't connect to the people that you're talking about, because you haven't really described anybody, you described anybody, not somebody specific. Well, anybody's nobody, and everybody wants to be somebody. And so if you're describing a meaningful person, a person that is actually a person, Even if it's a fictional person, it needs to be a person, not just a customer, not just a client, not just somebody I helped. But don't. This is Jim. Jim is 32. Jim had 2 kids, a dog. He lives in a wonderful Rambler out here in Fairfax County. He drives to work 10 miles a day. And he gets there and he has his cup of coffee from the cafe downstairs, and he walks up to the steps of his office and gets to his nice corner office in a beautiful office complex. These are demographic descriptions. When you give people demographic descriptions, they have no choice but to run through their own mental Rolodex of people that they know who fit the same demographics. You might find yourself, as I was talking about the person that I was talking about, you might have been asking yourself, who do I know that's a guy named Jim? Who do I know who's, the age that I described? Who do you know who works in Fairfax County? Who do you know works in an office? Who do you know that has 2.7 kids? Whatever it is that you describe, because it makes you think of, and it also grabs your attention and stops you from thinking about other things. Demographic descriptions are critically important to engaging your audience. Remember, there's steps to a relationship start building slow. We'll talk more about that later. Check in with your audience often. Ask open-ended questions to your audience often, because they want you to know, or they want to know that you're talking to them, right? You want to stimulate their mind. There's nothing greater than a question. You know what I mean? I'm sure you do, right? Don't get too cute. Very, very important. You don't want to, again, be gimmicky. You don't want to go over the top with any of the illustrations or anything that you're sharing or doing. You don't want to be too loud. You don't want to be too quiet. You just don't want to get too cute. Choose the right words, right networks to begin with. Make sure you're talking to the right people. If people in your audience are all over the place and nothing is synergistic about them or the same about them, then it's going to be a hard time for you to put together a presentation that's going to work for all of them. Now, if you can't do a presentation that works for all of them, make sure you do a presentation that works for your demographic, the people that you want to hear you. And try to identify them in the room as soon as you possibly can. Look them in the eye, right? Ask them ahead of time. Hey, listen, I'm going to be giving a presentation that's going to be a little different than I usually do today. I want you to pay attention, and I want you to give me some feedback at the end of it. Would you mind doing that for me? Then they're going to be locked in, because they know you're going to come to them and ask for their feedback. They're going to be paying attention. But again, the more you engagement creates engagement. The more you engage with your target audience and you ask them questions, you talk to them, the more they're going to listen and engage with you when it's your turn. So make sure that you figure out, who do you really want to play with, and who should be playing with you. Be specific. Not anybody who wants something or needs something or would like to have something. That's nobody. Nobody knows that person. We all know who he is. None of us know who wants or needs. Relay the sobering implications of doing nothing. In your presentation, whatever your protagonist is doing, if he continues to do the same things the same way, there's got to be a tragedy that will ensue. and it's got to be a sobering tragedy. And you got to make sure that person might already be in a tragedy, right? Or they may have already experienced a tragedy in the past and they don't want to experience it again. But you got to bring that pain. Because if there's no difference, if they could just continue to do what they need to do, and without you and your solution, then your solution is meaningless. Again, it's very, very important. No one expressed the fantastic benefits of working with you. You have to be able to do that really, really well. Plan incentives for your referral sources. If there's some kind of incentive that your referral sources get, make sure you talk about it. And guess what? Money is not the only incentive there is. Maybe it's an incentive to collaborate with you on another project. Maybe it's an opportunity to develop, to use your expertise in another way for themselves personally because they referred you. All kinds of things can happen, but everybody thinks money is the only incentive, and it probably isn't the incentive specifically for people who already have 3 hots in the cot, people who already are successful, who already got a certain level of I'm not going to say success. It just standard in their life, their standard of living is high enough that they don't need to struggle for anything. They're not trying to stretch for anything. Giving them money is not going to be a big benefit to them necessarily. So ask them, find out what would be a good incentive for you. I really want to earn your trust. What can I do to make sure that I earn it to the highest level possible? Ask the question. Stay away from product facts and features. Nobody cares about those until they do. So stick with benefits, 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 benefits. Describe your vision for the product or service that you're describing. Again, what is the ultimate outcome when a person receives what it is that you do? What is their greatest benefit? What is their life going to look like? How are they going to be changed? What are they going to be able to be, do, or have because they brought you on board to do whatever it is you do? If you don't understand that, if you can't describe that vision for their future success, then people are going to go, you selling a widget. A widget is a widget is a widget, so what? But your widgets, delivered by you, handmade by you, colored by you, to impress and to help other people be successful, might be a special kind of widget. You have to be able to speak to why that is and how that is. If you can't, then you can't drive the excitement that you need to drive to your product or service, or the people working with you, by the way. Share the names of future prospects that would be perfect for you. I love this one. This is my favorite piece of advice. I always tell people this. If you don't have a top 10 list of people that you want to meet because they've impressed you, and you want to somehow strengthen or create a strong relationship with them to see if it's possible that you may benefit one another in the future, then I don't know what you're networking for. I don't know how your networking is going to work for you, because anybody and everybody's going to jump into your network and they're not going to be useful. You need to be selective. You need to pick the people that you think are going to be most useful for you. If you don't have a top 10 list, you come up to somebody like me that goes, "Man, who should I introduce you to?" And you don't know. I don't know what we're talking about, because I don't have any benefit to you. You don't have any benefit to me. I can't help you, because what I'm good at is introducing people to the right people. But you have to be good at identifying who those right people are and let me know why they're the right people. So make sure you have your top 10 future prospects. That's going to be perfect for you, whether it's prospect for sales or prospect for potential advisory council members or collaborative partners, or there's all kinds of prospects. It's not just prospect to buy your product or service. All right. Give a timeline in which you will be approaching these prospects. So somebody trying to add somebody to your network, you announce to the rest of the team, "I'm going to be bringing this person on." Great. When are you going to do it? Because, I made the mistake today of asking a couple of friends of mine to introduce me to a young lady that I wanted to get close to via LinkedIn. And it took them about, 2 hours to get back to me. And by that time they got back to me, I had already figured out how to find the young lady and introduce myself, which I did. And we already connected. And so I didn't need it. Now my friends are busy doing some busy work. I had to stop them before they got too much, but they started asking me all kinds of questions. And I'm like, okay, that's not what we're in this for. I already did this. It's already taken care of. I don't need your help anymore. Now they want to talk about why I wanted to meet them in the first place, which is a whole separate conversation. But the point I'm trying to make to you is, if you're going to be reaching out to somebody anyway, make sure you tell people that you're going to be reaching out to them anyway. And you hope to be, working with them. If they can either enhance that somehow, some way, or, help you get there, then that's great. But again, it's all about communication when it's all said and done. The next part of this is create a short branding statement that works. Whatever is your presentation is all about, you want to create a short branding statement that speaks to that industry or that opportunity. Like I may say at the end of a presentation that I'm going to be doing lately, recently or in the future, I might be saying something to the effect of, "I am the answer to the biotechnology researcher's dream. I help them focus, I help them create more energy, and I help them create more powerful and passion behind everything that they do so they can be phenomenally successful." That's it. 7 seconds. Short branding statement. Very, very important. A great book for that is a book by Dr. Ivan Meisner called The 7 Second Marketing. Last but not least, develop a memory hook that ends your story, just like the one I just created, right? Just a short branding statement may start you off, and a memory hook might be very similar to that. That will end up your sort of bookends your presentation, right? The coach that you want to meet is Coach Powell. Boom, that might be a memory hook, or whatever. If it rhymes, it's cute. That's fine. Doesn't have to. Again, you don't want to get too cute, but you do want to be cute enough to stand out. All right. All right, so that's what I want to share with you today. I think I'm going to stop right here. And if there's any questions about anything I've already discussed with you, because we're going to go into it, I would like for you to download the document, do your homework, read it all. And so that way, next week when you come back, you should have some tough questions for me. But more importantly, practice the guide. At the end, there's an opportunity for you to develop your own outline for your 5 elements presentation. Doesn't matter how long you want to do it, but you're going to need to make sure you have impact, which means you have to have those demographic descriptions we talked about. You need drama, levels of pain, things that hurt. We want to see that pain, want to see those tears coming out, right? Then the hero moment. What does the hero do to create this moment? What decisions did the hero make? What valor does the hero engage in to create a sense of wellness again and drive us back to bravery and compassion, right? All those things. Then vision, what is it that you envision that your protagonist will be able to accomplish, or other people that you may be able to get into that are very similar to your protagonist? What will they be accomplished as a result of working with you, right? And then finally, recognition. Who are you? Where are you coming from? How long you've been doing this? What's going on? Give us some details, right? And that's it. That is the opening to the 5 elements of super engaging presentation. The better you're going to be at these things, the more you're going to be able to do well. And as we go through them, I'll understand that there are going to be people who hear this and they want, I want to do this, right? Or they see the link or whatever, and I want to participate. I'm probably going to be doing a full day workshop on the 5 elements of perfect presentation. Some of you have attended those workshops in the past. Some of you might want to bring a friend. But if you've attended one in the past, then I'm going to let you come and bring a friend for free. If you have, free to you, I should say. The friend, they have to pay. But I will give a deeply discounted rate to anybody who's a friend of a friend, sort of thing. So I'll figure out how to work all that out. But I'm going to probably do a full-on 5 elements presentation to really go through a sort of a workshop style and make sure people come out with, practice, well-rehearsed, perfect elevator pitches for different segments of their audience, so that they don't have any excuse why I can't do this, I don't know what's going on, and nobody will work with me. We'll just make it happen. So you should leave that presentation with at least 4 pitch perfect elevator pitches ready to go, kind of thing. So if you're looking into that, you're interested in that, definitely give me a call. Usually my number is scrolling across the screen, but I have not been up to snuff lately. Look at that. Here we go. That's all my information is scrolling across the screen. You can text me. You can email me. Use the hashtag 9StepGuru. I'd love to see that hashtag appear more than I'm able to make it happen. So if you find the post of mine either on Facebook or LinkedIn, or I'm now trying to use Instagram, I'm probably going to promote that hashtag a lot more. And if you want to take advantage of any of the free offers that I have, you can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn or my website, which is scrolling through the screen right now. And if there's any questions that I can answer for anybody, let me see if I got any in here already. We'll close. Yes, Suresh, we talked about losing self-confidence already. Let me ask a question that one starts. In your opinion, what do you like to do in your looks where, blah, blah, blah. What were you asking? Yeah, you went back to that question. When asking a question, if one starts with, in your opinion, what do you like to do in your looks where, etc. Okay, I understand what you're saying. When you're present with a question up front. And that's always a good technique, as long as it's a good question. And a good question for you might be, have you ever felt uncomfortable in a room where how you look really mattered? and then just leave that hanging out there for a second. And then people they're gonna feel like, ooh, that's gonna hit them in their emotions. But there's the benefit that they don't have to feel uncomfortable, right? It's gonna be what you deal with later on. So that's always a great way to do that. It's a great question, Suresh. Thank you for doing that. Let me see. David said someone recently told me that it's better not to be cute because you only have a few seconds to make a first impression. If someone has to think about it to make the connection, they may miss the point. That is so true. Anything that distracts your audience from anything other than the quality of the message or thing that you're trying to accomplish is useless. Like, I used to do this a lot in a camera, right? I would point to the camera. People used to hate that because I got the feedback that you keep gesturing toward the camera and it's throwing me off. But I realized that some people have, vision problems, and so all that coming at them, in a wrong situation could be off-putting. And so I had to be very careful. I had to figure out how to use my gestures in a way that weren't going to be so distracted to the people who are watching me. And by the way, the gestures I might use on camera are different than the gestures I might use when I'm in the room, right? I may do this. When I'm on camera, I might come a little closer to let you know I'm talking to you. This is very important stuff. Or I may back up a little bit to let you think about it for a second. Because I'm thinking about it, you're thinking about it, we're thinking about it, right? But everything matters in presentation. And you have to make sure that you've done your work and you know what you're talking about. And you can think about delivery. But if you have your script down cold, if you have your subject matter down cold, like I have the 5 elements down cold. I know when I'm going to share what element when all the time. And I never get off that pace. I never get off that rhythm, and I never forget either one of those elements, which means I create a perfect presentation all the time. Now, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been in this business for a long time. And I've been talking to people about the upskilling and developing different ideas and concepts for themselves for years. And I'm now learning more about curriculum design and course design and all those types of things. So I'm getting better and better and better and better. But this is the gift. This is something I've always loved doing, is helping to share and helping people be better at whatever it is that they're doing. That's what you want a good coach to be able to do. And so I invite you to invite all your friends, anybody who you think is relevant to these next 5 weeks, because we're going to take a deep dive into this thing. We're going to break it apart and turn it around and look at it upside down. Okay. David just put some stuff in the chat for me, and I'll definitely take a look at that, Dave, after the presentation. I can't do it on camera or anything like that in the middle of this presentation, but I appreciate you. Thank you very much for posting that information, and hopefully other people can benefit from it as well. This is a great moment. It is 4:19. I've been at this for about 1 hour and 19 minutes, so we're going to end the broadcast. If anybody doesn't have any other questions, please download the document. Let me post it in here one more time. And do your homework, because next week I'm going to have some questions for you. And I don't want to embarrass anybody. So let's make sure you do your homework, read it, start playing with it. If you have questions ahead of time, definitely ask me. Next week, we're going to bust open impact. We're going to talk about why impact is important, how impact is important, how you drive your presentations to greater and higher levels of impact than ever before, starting with character development. Why is that important? So get into it. Tell me what you come up with, and we will see you guys next week. It was great fun. I really enjoyed it. I hope you come back. I hope you bring somebody else with you, and we will have a great time. Good talking to you guys. Adios.